Have you ever wondered how you find yourself having this opinion about, the election going this way and it turns out to be dramatically different than you and maybe everyone else expected? Did you ever realize that that expectation or that circumstance for disappointment was set up by a narrative that is far outside of your control? Well, how do you really know what's going on? Are you waiting for them, whoever that is, to tell you what's happening in the world or in your community? Are you aware of the influence of media, film, and TV? Well, I'm going to share a few points from the last 100 years of Hollywood influencing U.S. politics today. I'm Mark Roach. I usually call myself Roach, and here on this channel, Transcendent, I share my complex PTSD journey with you and hopefully awaken some new perspectives in people. So I did some research here, and the historical context of Hollywood and politics goes back a long ways. It's been shaping some political attitudes in America since the inception of motion pictures in the early 20th century. I would say that was probably in the still or the silent movies of the early 1900s, and then I guess around 1940, 45, 50, they really started becoming a little bit more like they are today, although they were black and white. But the early influences in the 1910s and 1920s, there was a movie called The Birth of the Nation in 1915, and it was a controversial film that highlighted racial tensions and was used by the Ku Klux Klan for recruitment, and it sparked public protest and criticism. It demonstrated the potential for film to influence political discourse. And then there was a movie in 1925 called Battleship Potemkin. Although it was a Russian film, it significantly impacted American filmmakers and audiences by showcasing propaganda's power and innovating filmmaking techniques. So I think that's about influencing other people with, and that was back in 1925. So we became aware of the use of film to influence and sway public opinion a long time ago, 100 years ago. And then the third group I'll talk about here are movies from the 1930s and 40s, like Mr. Smith Goes to Washington in 1939. That was a groundbreaking film that criticized government corruption, leading to backlash from political figures at the time. The Great Dictator in 1940 was a film by Charlie Chaplin that used comedy to criticize dictators and promote an anti-war message, influencing public opinion on global conflict. And then in the 1950s to 70s, consider a movie called A Face in the Crowd, made in 1957. It predicted the rise of celebrity influence on politics, highlighting the dangers of media and populism. And then in 1972, The Candidate exposed the manipulation in political campaigns, creating awareness about the authenticity of political messages. And then in 1997, War Dog was a satire on media manipulation, where fabricated war distracts from a political scandal, foreseeing tactics used in real political situations. And then in the 80s into the 2010s, Vice was a portrayal of Dick Cheney's rise to power, emphasizing an influence of a few individuals on global events and encouraged skepticism toward political leaders. Team America, World Police in 2004 critiqued American militarism and the concept of America as a global police force, making it acceptable to question nationalistic rhetoric. And then in the 2020s, contemporary politics, recent films such as Civil War reflects the deepening division in American politics and warns against the danger of partisanship. The public's reaction to modern political films often reveals a desire for validation of personal beliefs rather than introspection. So overall, these themes and messages, that you can see the evolution of political films over a century highlight the importance of vigilance when choosing leaders, as unchecked power leads to corruption and abuse. Media manipulation has become increasingly sophisticated, making it difficult to discern authenticity in political discourse. Ultimately, the role of artists and filmmakers in raising awareness and urging caution in political engagement. So, encapsulating a century of film history as a reflection of an influence on political dialogue, urging audiences to recognize the implications of media and the importance of being informed as voters and citizens. So I can't help but also consider there were some movies that, exposed, sexual abuse in the Catholic Church by priests, and how difficult that was for people that had encountered that. And I think there's a lot of other things that have really come out in the last 10 years here in the U.S. that have exposed corruption as well as scandal around celebrities and people in power. So how do we go forward as people to, dealing with our own traumas in the face of what can sometimes seem like, these stories that they're telling sound like, we're walking out into a world full of injustice and unfairness. And I think that's where it's up to us to find the positive way to deal with it and protect ourselves at the same time. I think there's dignity in learning that middle ground, kind of this fourth way approach to getting in touch with your own humanity, because I believe ultimately that's where mankind will prevail in holding on to that. And there may only be a few of us that really do carry that forward from one generation to the next. But I think there will be a snowball effect. And I can't say if it's going to happen in my lifetime or if it's going to be, 10 generations from now. But I do have faith that this does exist in many of us, if not all of us, if you do the work to tap into it. I'm Mark Roach, wishing you all the best.